GameBuilder Studio.
Okay, now it's time to set up the obstacles for the bird to fly through. So we're gonna drag in the pipe image. It automatically creates a collision spatial or collision shape on it. I'm going to scale this guy down 0.5, 0.5. Put the registration point at the top, so 0 along the Y. And I'm going to need to adjust the spatial. The collision shape, I'm sorry. I could also auto trace this shape to make it even more of an exact shape around the pipe. But for now, that's good. I'm going to rename this to pipe. Rename the bird to bird just so I have that name correctly. And I'm going to add logic to move this guy across the screen. So we need to check the property on the bird to make sure it's flying before this starts to move. The property is flying, make sure that's set to 1. And we also want to destroy this guy when it gets off the screen. So logic destroy. When the spatial's Y value is less than, say, 100 and -50 along the x-axis, so it'll be off the screen left. We want to just run the destroy action. Okay. Now we're also going to create a goal, the goal object of what the bird is going to interact with. And before I do that, let me actually go back to the pipe and set this guy to kinematic because we don't want it to fall with gravity. And it can move. We don't want it to rotate. Turn that off. Set it to pipe and say that it collides with the bird. Alright, that should be good there. I'm going to scale this guy down. I want the registration point to be at the top here. So I'm going to, where is it? The renderer. I'm going to go registration point, oh, wrong one. Put 0 on the Y. Be at the top. Because I'm going to spawn this guy at the top of the screen. And it's going to be the height of the entire screen. Set it to whatever color you want. Give it a name, goal. And I'll position it off the screen as well. Now I also need to add logic in here for this guy to be moved and destroyed. So I'll add the move logic first. Check the bird. See if it's flying. If that's 1, then we want to use a move action. -180, so from right to left. And give it a speed of, say, 10 pixels maybe, or 15. I set all the spatials to be moved. Now I should make this speed a global property, so let me just do that. Obstacle speed. I'll set that to whatever, 15. I'm going to go back into the goal speed, and I'm going to reference that global property instead, just so that I don't have to come back in here. And did I set up the move correctly? Let's see. Oh, I didn't add the action. I'm going to use the move action, set the speed to the global property, obstacle speed, get rid of that value that was there. Set it to move all the spatials on this entity, and from right to left, the -180. Save that. Now if I were to just position these guys on the screen, oh, and let me fix the collision shape on the goal to make sure it's perfectly aligned. Alright. If I were to run that. Okay. Now we need to change the values on the goal as well. On the spatial object, set it to kinematic. Cannot rotate, but it can move. And I could add a type here, but I'm just going to let the bird collide with it. Actually, I'll just go ahead and I'll add a custom type for it. Call it goal. So now if I go back here, goal is there, collides with the bird. Alright, those two are good. I'm going to move them off the screen. And now we'll set up the spawner. The spawn object is very simple. We're going to select a center point, a random center point. So it can be anywhere from, say, 100 pixels from the top to, say, 250 pixels from the bottom. And we want it to be a random point. And then we're going to offset the bottom pipe from that point at a certain amount of the gap that you want. So let's set up a global property called pipe gap. And let's set that gap to, say, 165 pixels. So we're going to take half of that for each pipe to offset them from each other, from that center point. So let me add a dummy object in here just to hold the logic. I'll call it pipe spawner. And I will remove the collision spatial by adding a basic spatial. Because I don't want it to simulate with gravity. Select the proper renderer. And I will add logic in here for spawning. Now we don't want this guy to trigger if the bird is not flying. So if the game hasn't started yet, pretty much, then this logic doesn't get fired. It is flying, set to 1, then we're going to use a timer. So every 2.1 seconds, time the center point calculation. I'm going to save this because there's a bit of a bug in this property panel that's going to be fixed pretty soon. And I want to use a change property action. Now what we're going to do, we need to create the property first. So let's close these. Data container, call it properties, and oh, wrong button. I'm going to add a property called spawn point y. It'll be an integer, that's fine. Going to change that property to an expression value of a random value using this helper method between a range. So I want a random value to fall within a certain range, 150 pixels from the top, and let's say 270 pixels from the bottom. I want it to, so I need the screen height, oh, wrong one, screen height minus, say, 270 pixels. So that'll give me that range. Set random spawn point. Give that a name. Oh, did that save? Let's see. Uh-oh. Okay, now we can spawn the pipe. So I'm going to use a timer once again. And because all of these are going to use the same value, let me create a global property for it. Spawn time. Set that to 2.1. Oh, I need a number value, not an integer. So 2.1, because that's a decimal. Time bottom pipe spawn. So we'll reference that global property, spawn time. Save this and then open it. And we want to spawn an entity. So we want to point to the pipe. That's the template we're going to use. We want it to be positioned on the right side of the screen. So we're going to take screen width, remove that 0 value. And we want the center point. We want to offset this guy by a certain gap. So I don't think I created that property yet. Oh yeah, pipe gap. So that gap divided by 2, because the bottom pipe is going to take up half the space and the top will take up the other half. So we're going to subtract that from whatever random center point along the y-axis. Save that. Spawn bottom pipe. I'll give that a name. Save that guy. Now, if I run this, and I need to do a full compile, because whenever you're dealing with spawned objects, if you use a quick launch, sometimes you'll see some errors because there's some optimizations that are going on behind the scenes. So anytime you're dealing with spawned objects, try to use the regular launch. Okay, so they are spawned there. Okay, there we go. Randomly at different positions. Okay, we got to make sure we don't spawn it too high up. So I'm gonna change this random range to say 250 from the top. Yeah, set it to 270, that's fine. Okay, now we're also going to add another action to spawn the top object, and we're going to rotate this guy 180 degrees. So we're going to use another timer. Call it time top pipe spawn. Set it to the global property of spawn time. And we will spawn the pipe entity. But we're going to use this direction angle, which is the rotation value of the new object. So we're going to do negative 180. And because pretty much we want it to flip on its head. And we're going to set the position to the game screen width. Get rid of that value. And we want to look on the spawner for the spawn point, the center point. And we need to subtract half of the gap of the global pipe gap. Because we want it to move up the screen. Half of the gap. Okay, and if we wanted the position to be relative to where this object is, then we would check the relative entity, and whatever values you put here will take this position into account first, then add the position values here to whatever this original position was. But with this unchecked, we're going relative to the scene, which is 0, 0 is up in the top left. So I'll name this spawn top pipe. Save both of those. Let's run that. So they're spawning at random points, but we need to offset them some more. Okay, let's check the spawning values here. Okay, this needs to be plus because we need it to move down the screen. So plus this from the center point, we need to add whatever the gap is for the bottom pipe. And for the top, let's see, is this correct? Yeah, this one needs to be subtracted. Okay. That should do it. Okay, let's see. Okay, perfect. Now we do need to slow down the pipes. We can slow down the pipes by changing the global speed property down to, say, 4 maybe. And also let's increase the random or the spacing. I mean the random spawn position. So height minus, maybe let's do 170 and 160. Save that. See what that looks like. Okay, it's better. The goal also needs to be spawned, so I'm going to add another timer in here. And I'm going to use the global spawn time. Spawn entity and select the goal object. Now we want this to spawn off the screen as well with, and we just want it to spawn at 0 on the y-axis, so right at the top of the screen. Spawn goal object. See, I don't think that's saved. Let's see. Spawn goal object and set the global. And that's a bug that needs to be fixed. Okay, perfect. So as the bird flies through these objects here, and when it leaves the yellow object, that's when we're gonna add a point to the player, and you can see the bird is colliding with the goal. So I'm gonna speed up it up just slightly, set that to 5, set the speed to 5, and I want the spatial or the collision shape on the pipe to be a sensor, because I want the bird to just pass through it. I don't want it to actually affect the bird's position. Now the layer order of these objects here need to be adjusted. The ground needs to be above everything else. So I'll move that. And that's so that the ground appears, the pipes appear behind the ground. And also I'll move the goal. The goal needs to be hidden anyway, but I'll move it behind the pipe. And I'll add a component here to automatically hide the renderer when the game is run. We're just going to change the alpha value on the renderer to 0. Okay.